Today, it's really a great honor to be with Priya Sharma, Director of PRME, Southeast Asian Chapter. Hi, Priya, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well indeed. I've got a few points to ask you, please, if you don't mind, in order to celebrate the International Women's Day
Oh,
for
thank you so
this
much.
year. It's a pleasure. Well, please introduce yourself and what are you doing there at the moment, please?
Okay. First of all, thank you, Ned, for inviting me to this celebration. I feel really honored to be part of this. I am Priya Sharma. I am the director of PRME, as Ned just pointed out, which is Principles of Responsible Management Education, and I'm also the Prime Chapter ASEAN Chair and an academic within the School of Business at Monash University, Malaysia. Before academia, I was a practicing lawyer. I'm admitted as an advocate and solicitor at the High Court of Malaya, and my experience was purely in corporate conveyancing. Since corporate conveyancing, I switched to academia because I was more interested in advocating for human rights and sustainability. So I am an ardent advocate of authentic, meaningful education, research, and community engagement. My focus in education is to drive sustainability in higher education and lead the charge on nurturing a generation of socially responsible business graduates. My research interest is in humanity and the law, particularly in child labor, human trafficking, forced labor of migrant workers, and I'm presently pursuing my PhD in this area. And I also regularly collaborate and partner with the industry, civil society, and other stakeholders to create societal impact within the community. My focus currently is to empower refugee youth in Malaysia through education and life skills.
Wow, Priya, you sound terrific. Sound like a very you are doing a lot of meaningful work, but you are still full of energy. I can see that. I have a very question to ask you on behalf of the ASEAN Center, because we try to get the perspective in terms of what women expect to see in terms of change on the International Women's Day for women.
Yes. Okay, so your question is, what change do I want to see, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I believe that it starts with young girls and young women, and I feel that there are several changes I want to see for them. I feel that many young girls and women lack confidence, and this has to change. And one of it I feel is a healthy body image. I want to see young girls growing up with a healthy body image. I see a lot of times young girls equating their self-worth to the number on the scale or on clothing tag, I don't think people realize the impact these issues have on women's lives, the struggle it poses for them, body shaming, and lifelong struggles around body dysmorphia. Young girls and women, coming of age in the 21st century have more opportunities than any of the generations that preceded them. We don't doubt them. But they also face an array of pressures that are unprecedented, and body image is one of them. So I feel that what can be done early, for example, is education by different experts and activities on nurturing a positive body image to help them become healthy, well-rounded adults. I think this is important for girls stepping out into the workforce and the world, because it affects the way they conduct themselves in society, at work, in relationships, and the confidence they have to speak up for themselves, and the choices that they ultimately make in their personal and professional lives. So I feel that we all share the responsibility for driving this change, from brands embracing different body types, to media opening up honest conversations, to mothers being both smart and sensitive about how they educate their daughters, issues around objectifying girls and women, and even roles of educators like myself in instilling healthy confidence, in young women and girls. I also feel that taking up space is a very important issue for young girls, because for so long to be a woman has meant to fold into ourselves, to make room for others, literally and figuratively, to put others first. being unnecessarily apologetic or playing your talents and capabilities down. I've seen this in my own life. You think people won't like you, or people may think you are too aggressive if you come across as confident, or if you push your product, or you talk about what you know, or claim your space as an expert. So it is still in us to want to reduce ourselves for fear of what people may think or offending the norm. So I'd like to see this change at an early stage. I like to see more young women and young girls being educated on recognizing that it is their inherent right as a human being to take up space, evolve, change, bloom, flourish, and become all they dream of becoming. I think education and raising awareness in this aspect is important, and it is so often disregarded. And this includes educating young women on how to be brave in exercising their options, whether it's having the ability to choose when she wants to become a wife or a mother, or having access to an education, or choices especially as they enter into the workforce. So I feel these are the two things that affect young girls, but I also think that, and I also like to see more boys and men being allies in empowering women and girls. Now, I feel it's not just up to the girls and women to support women. Boys and men should be advocating for them as well. And I feel being an ally means educating yourself as much as you can about the issue at hand. And although women and girls empowerment is a critical element of gender equality, I think it's not just a women's issue, and it cannot be advanced solely through women's efforts in public or private spheres. I feel men and boys are very important actors who can share the responsibility and participate actively in this agenda. Men, especially as allies, it's very necessary as they continue to hold most of the influential decision-making positions in many areas. For example, working in partnership with women, parliamentarians can be game changers in transforming the political cultures and institutions that uphold harmful gender norms. So I feel to see more boys and men being included in initiatives around empowering girls and women working together benefits us collectively. And lastly, Nat, as a person who has a law background, right, I feel there are several legislations that need to come into play on a more national level. For example, if you talk about the context of Malaysia, right, currently the sexual harassment cases are dealt with using existing laws such as the Penal Code and the Employment Act, as well as other regulations and guidelines. But I feel these are insufficient, they are not sufficient, and an inclusive legislation will be more effective to address sexual misconduct. So, for example, the anti-sexual harassment bill is being tabled in Parliament this month for a second reading. So I feel this is a step in the right direction, as such a legislation will help to address rising cases and provide better protection for survivors. One last act that I think should come into play is the Gender Equality Act. I feel there's a need for this act, which will function as an overreaching framework to advance women's human rights and gender justice to all. And after all, I feel a lot of the ASEAN countries, including Malaysia, have ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Malaysia did it in 1995. So I think it's about time such a legislation is passed to implement the convention, which could prohibit gender discrimination, facilitate fulfillment of gender equality more effectively, and establish new institutions towards fulfilling gender equality.
You are such an inspiration, Priya. From what you explain, I can see the sparkle in your eyes, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of young women or young girls look at you as the role model. Since you have achieved quite a lot in your life. Still, you mentioned you in the legal, which is predominantly in Southeast Asia, perhaps it is seen as very masculine. This question wasn't on the list, but I wonder if you struggle in that profession as a woman at all?
Oh, yes. I think it's like you said, it's a very masculine profession, right? In a
Mm,
way. Uh, and uh, and um, and it all comes to what I just said in the beginning about taking up space. Like and I mentioned this that I've seen this happen in my own personal life as well. So for a long time, although I love the law, although I love what I'm doing, I used to find myself putting myself in the background of things and not in the forefront. And like I said, if you talk about what you know and you claim your space as an expert, it was difficult coming forward because of how we've been brought up, how we've been taught to make room for others, how we've been taught to shrink, not really come forward in our lives. But through my life, through the struggles and breaking through them, this is what I'm able to tell the young people today. This is based on my own experience that take up space, be
mm,
confident, break through these obstacles that are put before you, and be all that you want to be. And there is no shame is that, because I feel that's our inherent right as a human being to really be all that we want to be. And I feel that before you are a daughter, before you're a sister, before you're a wife, you're a mother, you are you. So I feel you need to ask yourself, who are you? What are my capabilities? What am I here to do? Because I feel all of us have unique talents that we are meant, that enables us to bring something to this world. So find out what that is, and do it. Find your purpose and do it. And don't hold back. I've held back for a lot of my life, and this is and but it has looking back and reflecting, I feel that this is the message that I would like to tell girls, the young girls these days. And there's this perfect quote by Marianne Williamson. I don't know if you know her, and she basically says this. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our
mm.
light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And then we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will not feel insecure around you. And this is what I realized. I realized that we are all meant to shine. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, and a lot of it is fear, I feel that I had to break through my fear of shining, my fear of doing well, right? As we liberate ourselves, our presence liberates others.